Krystal Ball, Dave Smith, and Democrat Delusion. So recently there was an interview between Krystal Ball and Dave Smith, I think on the Breaking Points YouTube channel. It was basically Breaking Points is basically like a left wing, center left news commentary channel. And Krystal, on that in that interview, Krystal Ball and Dave Smith, they were having basic conversation. They had a lot of conversations about like U.S. politics. One thing I really want to focus on was this discussion they had about quote unquote wokeism and how Bernie Sanders lost the 2016 nomination for the Democratic Party because Hillary Clinton was essentially able to weaponize identity politics against him, going against him because he's a white male. Even though, first of all, Bernie Sanders is not a white male; he's Jewish. He's basically a minority. But that's besides the point. I'm drawing attention to this portion of the interview because Democrats seem to overestimate just how important identity politics and wokeism is, like how radical it is in the country. It really isn't that radical. And the very fact that they believe it's radical is just another indicator that they're buying into like the right wing framing of these issues. There is no epidemic of wokeism, quote unquote wokeism, in the country. People can't even define what wokeism is. Wokeism is essentially a right wing propaganda term. It's an outright dismissive term that is void of content. It doesn't mean anything. All it means is you're engaging in identity politics against our group and we don't like you. In case you haven't noticed, the Republican Party practices identity politics. The history of the United States is the history of identity politics. From the very beginning, from colonization, all the way up to the Civil Rights Movement, all the way through the 1990s, all the way through the 2010s, and now into the 2020s. The history of the United States was always the history of identity politics. The history of the United States was always the history of judicial activism. The history of the United States was always the history of lobbies and power politics. And until the Democrats can just come to terms with this, they're not going to make any progress. The Republicans have always been the party of identity politics. The only problem they have is that they're the party of white male identity politics primarily. And they do not like, it's basically white males and their wives. If you notice, single women single white women tend to vote for Democrats, and married white women tend to vote for Republicans. The Republican Party is basically the party of white women, white males, and their wives. The Democrats need to come to terms with the fact that this was always about identity politics. Identity politics were always central to American politics. This idea that it was the Democrats who made identity central to politics in America is a fiction. The only reason why Krystal Ball is even eager, one of the reasons she's so eager to buy into this narrative, is because she is a class reductionist. And the reason why she's a class reductionist is because I'm assuming from her background that she comes from a middle class background. Middle class, perhaps even upper middle class background. She has a very, very narrow view of the world. And this is not me condemning her or even being This even isn't even a criticism. It's simply an observation. She has a very, very narrow view of the world, and she's a class reductionist because class issues are the issues that benefit her. All of the major issues that we have to strive for that would have impacted her have mostly been resolved. But we're seeing a lot of identity issues relating to women regress, such as abortion rights and stuff. But for the most part, women have equal rights to men in this country. A lot of the issues relating to women in this country have been resolved. Obviously, there's still more progress to be made, but a lot of them have been resolved. The reason why she's a class reductionist is because the issues that do not relate to class are the issues that do not affect her.